So members, you're welcome. In this lecture, we are looking at comparative and philosophy, and specifically looking at education. So in here, you'll see two aspects. One of the aspects is called philosophy of education, and the other aspect is comparative education. So it is a blend of two aspects, philosophy of education and then comparative education. So in the first place, we are going to look at philosophy of education, but later we shall have a brief of comparative education. So we call it comparative because you'll be comparing education establishments of one country and another, and then also comparing education of one region with another region. So you will see that education varies by regions and can also vary by countries. So education of one country may not fit into another country. Now, my name is Welba Sebuyungo Chive Kayumba. So let us first you will see what philosophy is in the first place. Then, after knowing what philosophy is, right from its originality, you'll also see what the history of philosophy is. Where did the philosophy begin, and then how has philosophy come to be in the current days? Then here you'll also see the relevance of philosophy in education, that why they will need to be a philosopher. Then you'll be able um to identify some of the examples of philosophy, those philosophies, you see them, and then what are the questions that philosophy asks. So in here you will see that philosophy exists in four branches, and each of the branch philosophy asks questions from each of the branches. So those branches there, you will see that each branch philosophy asks questions. Then we should also require you to be able to identify some of the philosophical schools of thoughts. They are called philosophical schools of thoughts that an educator has to know and apply in day-to-day activities. They are called philosophical schools of thought. Then you'll also find some of the learning theories. We call them learning theories. For us to guide learning, then these theories have got to be with us. So that's why we are asking here, what are the learning theories and learning philosophies? Now let us look at one of the aspects what we have said here. What is philosophy? So philosophy comes from those two Greek words. You remember in ancient Greece, some of the philosophers came up with some of the this is where the word comes from. It is in Greek. It was constructed from the Greek language, but there are also words of philosophy in the local languages that translate to philosophy. But when we speak philosophy in the English language, then it is constructed from the two words. Phileo means love, and the other, Sophia, which translates to wisdom. So this tells us that philosophy is man's love for wisdom. So when you have love for wisdom, we start to think that you've taken a journey of a philosopher. Why? Because without love for wisdom, then one cannot seek for wisdom. Because you have to love wisdom and then look for it. Mr. Ballas, boss, bossa. You first loved the girl and then went for what? To marry. Yes. So first love wisdom, then look to get it and be with it. That's now where we say man's quest for wisdom and knowledge is philosophy. So we get that urge, the interest for what not wisdom is, where wisdom is, and so that we start looking for it. And wisdom is there, and knowledge is also there. It's only that it is covered. So anybody who seeks for it can at some time reach at a point where can uncover it, which others call discover. What is covered, you uncover and discover. So philosophers are not settled, they are always unsettled. Wherever they see that they don't have their wisdom and their knowledge, they are unsettled. They keep on making inquiries. Uh-huh. How comes? What is? Why is? Why not? Hmm? When is and when not? What if it is the other way? Or if it is this, what happens? What if it is not? Hmm? Those questions and the further questions prompt are prompted by a philosopher. That's why in this course unit we are preparing you to be a philosopher who can even make comparisons, contrasts, and after draw a conclusion and come up with something better than what is commonly done or commonly perceived. So you will find a philosopher will turn things upside down, and what is commonly thought to be the total norm, the philosopher says no, that's not so. It said that there was a time where people were used the donkeys as vehicles and horses, and only rich people who had them because they were the vehicles of the rich, until somebody comes up with a car. And the vehicles then they were also for fire. You would just burning the engine with the firewood until someone questioned whether there's not something else that not firewood that can also run the vehicle, until the vehicles were now being fueled by by petrol. But now people are questioning themselves, for petrol which burns and the exhaust goes in the atmosphere and causes carbon emissions affecting the environment, can't we use something else that is not fuel that can run an engine? Now somebody are coming up with electric driven vehicles, but again other people are saying, well, can we, those vehicles which are having drivers, can't we really have a vehicle that can run without a driver but reach where it is going and deliver things down off-road and comes back? And now they are driverless cars, possibly. What of, so philosophers keep on asking questions and challenging the common perspectives. After, you'll find that here you've seen that philosophy comes from two words, phileo, which means love. In Greek is close to Latin. In Latin it is ama. Love is ama. And then Sophia, that is still also in Latin, Sophia. You've heard of names of Sophia, people being named Sophia. Yeah. So Sophia can be a name meaning wisdom. So those whenever you see anything called a philosophy, then it has a deeper meaning behind there that you need to give attention. But our greatest interest here is to make sure that you become a philosopher, that wherever wisdom is needed, you can seek for it and get that wisdom. Knowledge is needed, you can seek for it and get it, other than keeping on saying I don't know, I am not aware. Just to have a little brief, but the detail of the history of philosophy, you'll find it. And but philosophy began right from the time of creation of this world. So where, for example, Adam and Eve asks what to eat and what not to eat, what to do and what not to do. So, of course, philosophers can create things which can even make errors, from which errors can be, as they are seeking for wisdom. So when you make a mistake as you continuing to seek for wisdom, it is not, it is a journey of philosophy. That's why children will break glasses to see whether actually those glasses break. But when they break them, then they realize that they break. So next time they are handling them carefully. So it's part of the journey to realize. So that's what you find that when it comes to, there was a time where people were they were in Stone Age period. Even their metal smelters, smelting what? Iron. Those were times of discovery. But those who were doing metal smelting, the very metal smelting systems are the ones being used by roofings, being used by steel and tube to produce all these doors and the metals we see. It's only that when people are teaching about those ages, they say that those are ancient and civilized systems. They were processes of discovery which keeps on being improved through philosophical inquiries, and which philosophical inquiries prompt some better outcomes. Better outcomes. Even these projectors, there are times when they were not there. And now this one can become hot, but then someone has thought of which one can we make and does not go hot at the time. And then they come up with something better. So, in before the birth of Christ, we see that in Egypt, there came ways of asking from to migrate. People started migrating right from sculpting and to communicate, in communication, to writing here in Africa, where that's where writing began and philosophy began in Egypt. Though many writers, because there is a tendency of trying to despise Africa, tend to shift philosophy to Greek, to ancient Greece. But first it started from Egypt in Africa, and then wisdom was picked, and then ancient Greece and Rome, then to the whole world. So that's where you find these cities are there in the ancient Greece, Athens, where you find philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, right from there. But the philosophers in Egypt, most books don't write about them. Yet they are the originators of, philosophy. So these here, we say they are results of philosophy. Philosophy creates solutions to existing problems and prompts to identify the cause and effect of those problems. And then sets a pace that leads to solutions. This means that philosophy does not itself provide a solution, but it creates an environment within which a solution can be created. For that case, we also say philosophy creates, but it has created an environment. It's like asking him, you come and switch off this, which possibly he has never switched off. But I tell him, if it goes on, then it can go off. So put it off because it went on. Then he finds out how to put it off, to put it off. So philosophy creates a prompt, and usually challenging your students. You may not necessarily tell them what that is, but you have brought it and you're telling them identify what it is, and then they look around, they struggle until they are able to tell what it could be. If they are not able to tell, then prompt other questions that draw them to look at the other side of it. So philosophy still continues to ask the root cause, the problem. Someone comes and says the problem of this district is poor performance. Then philosophy asks, what causes the poor performance? Has not necessarily agreed or disagreed, but then teachers don't teach. Philosophy asks, do they attend to their school? Do they go to school? Yes, they do. Philosophy continues asking, do they attend classes? Yes, they do. Do they teach? Yes, they teach. So until someone keeps on drawn to the root cause, it is not necessarily that philosophy is the one answering the root cause, but it is creating an environment which prompts someone to research and find the root cause. It is a research that brings the root cause, but to cause it to do so, it is a philosophy that drives it. Then it will enable us to generate new knowledge. And later on, we can now start to classify objects. What's the difference between that and the other? Then you say, these ones are different. Let's give them a name. So, commonalities and the differences So this, when you study philosophy, you will cease simply to be an adopter. You know, adopters, what is there, you think that is what should be, and that is what will be and will always be. And then you don't set up a new trend. It is common for people to find what systems are you using. We are using this system, the other system. And then, oh, then you also pick on and use that very system. Philosophers create systems, they create methods, new methods, which others will not. For me, I often get contracts with the companies that are struggling. One of the company which was making a loss of 78 million, they contracted me there, and they were selling beverages, hot beverages, using beverage machines. You press a button, get a cappuccino, get latte, espresso, those. And the people who were attending to these machines were being paid a salary of 400,000 shillings per month. And then they were not selling enough. We went there and changed the philosophy. But if you want to be on the machine, every cup you sell is 500 shillings. If you can't do that, you leave and we get somebody to operate the machine. We changed the equation. And the person who was on the machine selling 10 cups, they started selling 30. Because we had changed the philosophy. And they were making more money. 30 cups a day at 500 shillings, that is 15,000 shillings a day. And a month, if the person worked for 20 days, for 30 days, that would be 450. But there are places where people were making 70 cups, and we are buying the land and the cows. So develops new models and systems, then it will also give space for planning and preparing some procedures. Now, philosophy and education. We have a relationship between philosophy and education. If one was to think whether philosophy came before education, or education is the one that gives birth to philosophy, then you find that if philosophy, for example, did not ask questions or cause investigations or cause making inquiries, then education would have nothing to offer. Indeed, even some of the things that you teach in schools have not been, the people who have written them for you to teach have not been in schools. But they have questioned existence, questioned reality, they have questioned behavior, how things, and observed how things run, then they draw conclusion, then somebody comes and documents them, and that is what is taught. If one asks that, did the beekeeping start in a university, or it started in people's homes? And those people who may not even have attended any class, but asked, what can I do to befriend a bee that Bees can become my friend. And then says, oh, and now those incentives that makes bees friends to human beings, and even learn to differentiate who an enemy is to attack and who a friend is to welcome, then now uh, that is documented in the books of agriculture, beekeeping. So philosophy defines education and tells what education should offer based on discoveries and research. Indeed, you've also seen that philosophy is what prompts what we call research through questioning to improve reality and also improve existence. In earlier years, people used to dig in houses to build beds, digging holes, and then the beds would be anchored in the ground, not to fall. Until people came up with the nails, think, can't we have a bed without necessarily digging into the ground? And they achieved it. And now they struggled to enter beds into doors. You go make a bed and come and find the door is smaller than the bed. Now their philosophy was asking, isn't there a way we can have a bed even if the door is smaller than it, but have it enter? And now people are creating the beds you can assemble inside the what? Inside the room. So that is those trends are there. So we want here to define what education is. So I would like to ask a question: what is education? Yes. Yes, now Kenya. No, no, no. Narubega, Narubega, yes. The teaching and learning process. Thank you. Okay. Someone with another definition for education? Education is the process of acquiring knowledge and skills. Okay, thank you. So here in philosophy, we are always focusing on origin and the baseline of things. That's why we define education based on etymology. This word etymology. Etymology is the study of the originality and the original meaning of words. If we were to study original meanings of words, we study etymology. And etymology is a very good field for a teacher. Why? The teacher ceases to use words still because that's what people have have chosen to call them. But what was the original intent of creating such a word? For example, I would say the word a lot does not mean too much. Etymologically does not mean too much, but it is only it's actually lot. It comes from the word lot. That's why when you're writing a lot, you don't pair a with lot. You say a lot. So what is a lot? A lot is a piece of work to be done. So if I say I have a lot, then I have a piece of work to be done. Then someone who is giving me the lot says, I have allotted you work to do. But as people were given, for example, cultivating, they were given a lot to cultivate, a piece to cultivate. People were like, they have given me a lot. They have given me a lot, complaining. And then the population perceived that a lot means something that is burdening. And now people are perceiving it to be a lot, meaning too much. But education now here, also etymologically, education comes from two Latin words. One is called educare. In Latin, the word educare means to bring up. To bring up. And there is also education also comes from another word, educere, which means to bring out. But this word educere, this one, was picked from the word jucere, which is translated to mean to lead. So educare, bring up. So anything that we do to bring up, we are on the journey to educate. Even plants can be educated. Animals can be educated, provided something has life and it can be brought up. I saw someone training a tree to create branches, which branches can be carved into a seed, and and was carving all his trees at some level, cuts it, and then brings the branches in the sides, then puts something and the branches carve around it, and all the trees are carved like that. And that garden, people go sit on those plants, get shades, but also are seated and can converse, can pose around in the open air. That is also educating the tree. Is bringing it up that way. So even people, anything we do to bring them up, not bringing it down, but bring up, it is educating, or bringing out what is within the person. These people have treasures, or that we call giftings here. Everybody you see in the world has some value inside there, which value is cannot be seen unless someone has insight to see what is in there, which one has got to bring up or to bring out so that the person becomes useful and relevant to the community and anywhere. However, though education is intended to bring up, there is also a possibility where education can bring down or weaken a person instead of strengthening the person or bringing up that person. Now that depends on how one handles education. However, when it happens like that, that it is instead bringing down and weakening instead of bringing up or strengthening, then we call that miseducation. When I was in my senior six, uh, my friend whom I studied with, he was in senior three when I was in senior two. So senior four, senior three, I was in senior three. So he went and joined the A level before I did. And in another school, because our O level school was ending at senior four. Our school was ending at senior four. So when he joined there, he joined and did arts. For me, I joined to do sciences. He said, you cannot do sciences. Those are for people, not you. He was called Namunungu. Namunungu Benon. So but possibly it could be somewhere there. So I was there between. Should I continue with the combination or change? But said I stayed in class 2 in objection, in a rejection of Namunungu's statement. But Namunungu, possibly up to date, may not be remembering, but he was doing something called miseducating. If somebody is taking maybe a path you are not in agreement with, the way you handle that person will either bring down or you bring up. If you had engaged me and told me, you see, in these courses here that we are doing, we can have this, but you're doing this. Are you sure you will have the other? Then we shared. There would be bringing, creating an environment, and I wouldn't have complained. But it was a disguise in there. Education leads, makes leadership. And so, whichever, either in terms of words or action that we do, some people are being directed. You say, they are being directed of what they should think and what they should also do. That's why you do not need to stand in front of people to write for them, to educate them. You only need to be around and have some things you're doing. Even if you slept at home, just sleeping up to 10 every day, even the children will start to think that's the normal type of waking up. And trying to change that from them is hard, can become harder. Because you have taken leadership, education leads. That's why you cannot be an educator and say you am not a leader. Because everything you tell learners to do is leading them. So, miseducation offers the learners with incorrect, inappropriate, and untruthful information, whether it is complete or it is incomplete. So where can one learn, or where can one receive education? I'm asking now. If we are to receive education, where can one get it? From home. Huh? By observation. Okay. So here we shall see some 4 aspects from which education can be good. Of course, here there is a tendency where people say, because you don't have a certificate, then you are not educated. Because you don't have a degree, then you are not educated. But is it really true that people are not educated because they have not gone to school? Can we draw such a conclusion? Or because they have not been in front of a person called a teacher or trainer, that they are not educated? Because the word education is different from the word teaching. Education is ebyenjigiriza. Teaching is kusomesa. So actually you are supposed to be an educator, not necessarily a teacher. Because you are doing a course called a Bachelor of Education. So not a Bachelor of Teaching. An educator now, one who is educated, learns by observation of creation. Observation of creation. So one observes light, air, water, land, plants, animals, and people, and starts to ask questions. How comes they are there? Of what use are they? How can I use them? By doing so and discovering, the person has got educated. Oh, every day you can drink the milk that comes from the cow, and it is that sweet. Before you know it, someone is saying, when you take it, you become, you get fats and has added on. That person has been educated in that sense. So it is important for a philosopher to learn the discipline of being observant. Just ask how many accidents people get simply because of not being observant. So they are philosophers we call creationists, because they believe that this creation exists from some source called, from a source called the what? The creator. From the source called the creator. There has been a division between 2 forms of philosophers: creationists and naturalists. Creations, when they look at all this creation, that's why they keep calling it creation, because they have a mind that there is a creator. They uphold that things don't happen by themselves, but there is a creator behind everything we see, hear, and so as they handle them, they handle that those things, they are simply what stewards to handle, other than naturalists who believe that these things happen by themselves and therefore they are no external forces that actually cause them to exist. So naturally, when you ask this a naturalist, why does the sun keep shining every day and it does not get tired? The naturalist will say that's how it should be, and explain. The creationists will say God designed it to do so. And so naturalists don't agree that there is God, and you will fight with them. They will tell you, give us an experiment to show the existence of God. Then the other way, the first way we said observation of creation. The other way is observation and analysis of situation and time. When does rain start in central Uganda here? Like now, when will rain start? Middle February, late February, and then when will it start shining? After that period. Now those are people who are studying what? Times, to understand the seasons and the patterns of things. When will the students in this lesson start dozing? After how many minutes will they start dozing? Those are now timings. Now when you realize that time is going to come, you create an activity to refresh people. And then that's through learning. That is also educating. The person has been educated that way by identifying times and seasons through observation. Another, through the creator. You find someone has just woken up in the morning and he has an idea. When you ask who told you that, nobody, but has been educated that thing. Or during the day as the person moves, gets the idea. There are sometimes when for example, go to people tell me, come, we have this problem and the other, and I go there without knowing what problem it is and what solution. But after reaching there and do ask certain things and check here and there, then I get the solution. And that solution I've got there, I may not even use it anywhere else. There is also that incident. That's why if you are a philosopher, we don't ask questions, who taught you that? Where did you get that? Why? Because people don't only learn from people or from books. People can learn anywhere at any time. So these are some questions here for someone to research. This B here, this B here, don't add it. We are going to have the next part, and close here. We are going to have the next part.